everybody, my name is Jessy and thank you so much for joining me today. I remember when I was a fresh graduate and all of my jobs straight from graduating, every time I changed jobs, I always seemed to be the youngest person in the room. I was especially the youngest person in every team that I seemed to join, and for the longest time I felt really intimidated by that. I remember applying for certain jobs as an entry level, and the kind of expectations that I would see is things like 5 years professional experience and things like that. And I always just thought to myself, God, I'm too young for everything. And I remember age being such a factor, a negative factor in my initial job hunting. But then as my career progressed, I noticed that actually there were some benefits to being younger, and I guess it meant that I related, especially with marketing and the particular marketing I was in, I could relate to my audience and I could use the right type of language that would attract somebody that was actually my age, which is who I was targeting. And so I saw some kind of benefits, but it wasn't until I reached my late 20s that I started to hear more chatter and more conversation going around about companies being ageist, and age or older age being a negative factor when it comes to getting a new job, changing companies, and even changing careers. And because I haven't faced that yet in my career, it's really frightened me, because I'm like, okay, so does that mean that every year that I grow up or I get older, does that mean I'm going to essentially be losing more and more job opportunities? But this is when we talk about bringing in job hunting into conversation, because it scares me, and I don't want to have this conversation with you in 20 years time when I for some reason have discovered the reality of being older and trying to find another job or a new job. I want to know about it now. I want to learn about it. So I'm opening this up as a conversation for anybody to let me know what the reality is actually with aging and looking for a job. And I want to know if for you younger people, are you struggling to find a job because of your age, because you're young? Think of any company you can. Should we practice that actually? Yeah, let's practice this. Let's think of a random company and we'll find out who the CEO of that company is. I don't know, Just Eat. Who created Just Eat? And then we're going to Just Eat, I would say, is a relatively newish company. So let's just look at Just Eat would be the newer one. And then let's look at a really old company like Nestle. Is Nestle an old one? I would say Nestle is an old one. Now, off the bat, I'm going to say, okay, that's Peter Duffy. And off the bat, I was going to say that I saw grey hair because the picture popped up and then closed off, and I was going to say, oh, he's got grey hair, so I was going to assume that he was older. I don't know how right this is. So he's above 50. Now that to me isn't actually old, especially now that I'm 28 and I'm closer to 50s. I'm really not trying to age shame anybody. I'm just trying to prove a point that I was trying to make, and it's that when I was younger, I had always, assumed that you had to be past your 50s to get to a certain point of, for the most part, to get to a point of high status in your career, because of course you have to think about time and experience. But then again, there's certain jobs or certain companies that I'm like, surely innovation, idea, passion would be a lot more than experience as such. Nestle CEO is Ulf Mark Schneider. We don't need to see his picture. Do you see it on Google? It pops up and it already says his age, and he is 54, my friends. 54. So yes, this video was because I wanted to open up the conversation, because I want to learn more about ageism in the workplace. I know it exists because I have friends who have talked about it, who have experienced it firsthand. I haven't yet, and I'm thankful for that, and I'm hoping that we can make enough changes in the way that society views age, beauty, body, all of that, to be able to make it safe and welcoming for everybody, because reality is that you can be in your 80s and discover a passion of yours, or finally feel that courage to be able to chase your passion. And who is anybody to tell you no? I'd be curious to know how people, senior leaders, if you're watching this, how you've gotten to your position, and whether you suffered any kind of discrimination in your work life. I'm curious to know, and it really would help people like us see that there is possibilities for us to reach our goals and our dreams. If I can help in some way to get rid of this kind of behavior and this mentality, and get people who work so incredibly hard despite their age, I want people in the top roles to actually have earned it, whether that's because they have this amazing idea, whether they have a good heart and passion for what they do. I don't care about age, and I don't care about looks. Come to me and tell me you're loyal. Come to me and say you believe in my dream. And that's why someday, if I ever run a company, I can tell you now, I'm going to have amazing employees who absolutely want to work with me. Not for me, with me. And I hope that more company business owners, CEOs, people in position of power can actually start to value people based on what they can contribute and how much they care about your company, your belief, and your mission, rather than just because they worked 30 years for this big amazing company, but in reality actually they worked for 30 years in that amazing company because they were riding off of somebody else's success. You just don't know what people's stories are, and so this is another reason why I want to change the way interviews are done. Jessy, too many ideas, not enough time, not enough hands. But the more we start talking about these things, the more open we are to having these conversations, I think that the faster we'll be able to make these changes. And hey, I'm okay to not see this in my lifetime. I dream of it. I dream to see these changes happen in my lifetime. Hey, I dream of it happening within the next few years, but if I don't see it in my lifetime, I at least want to feel like I helped contribute somehow to a future Jessy, a future you, baby, who will get these opportunities and will be able to thrive and be valued, I was going to say validated, and be valued based on their contribution and how hard they work. Isn't that such a nicer place than thinking it's not what you know, it's who you know? I hate that. I hate it so much, because the reality is it's true. The moment you get your foot in the door because you know somebody is the moment that your opportunities just come flying at you. And yes, I guess sometimes it feels nice to have that power, but actually the people who have that power are often the ones who abuse it. And the people who work hard, who genuinely want to make a difference and make positive changes into this world, they don't get seen or heard. Why? Because it's not that popular, or it's not that craze that everybody's obsessed with right now. Not enough people are talking about it. So why don't we? Let's just start talking about it. Let's start making our workplaces safer and more equal and happier and thriving, rather than having people go home every night feeling sad, alone, scared, abused in their workplace. And the last thing I ever want is to see somebody get turned away because they are too old or too young for a role. Let's take away the limitations that have been set in front of us from people who didn't know better. We know better, so let's start making actual changes in this world. We can only do it together though. So, are you in or are you out? Okay, as always, please have a good day, be good to yourself, and I will see you later. Bye!